It's day one at IPC Apex Expo 2023 in San Diego. I'm joined from Chintan from CalcuQuote. Thanks for coming over. It seems a big, busy show straight away, kind of thing. So, what are your initial feelings?
Yeah, absolutely. Just came from our booth and we had 7 people standing around it, so it's a good start to a good show. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So, it feels like we're getting back to normal now. So, what is CalcuQuote talking about at this show in specific?
So we've had the benefit of having really expanded over the last couple of years. All the supply chain volatility. Every time that happens, if you're building supply chain software that solves supply chain problems, it's a good time to be in the business. And the last couple of years has been bad for the industry and unpredictability, but we've really gotten to invest in new product development. So we've got several things, some of them old with enhancements, some of them new with new features. So last year at this show, we met with a bunch of customers who asked us to help them connect to each other through a distributed marketplace of being able to exchange components, basically. So they said, hey, I have components I'm not using that somebody else could use, and somebody else has components that I could use, and we could all free up all this dead inventory. And so we built that over the course of the past year in partnership with the IPC. Right. We've had, I think we're up to like 130 companies participating in it, hundreds of thousands of line items. It's been really good to see that level of engagement at a very decentralized grassroots level.
Yeah.
So that's one of the exciting things. And then one of the things that we've been investing in from a commercial perspective is using machine learning and things like that to help identify alternates and help improve BOM health. Right. It's one thing to say, are the parts available? But when they're not, you have to still solve the problem, and that comes from finding alternates. And that's one of the things we've invested very heavily in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's interesting, like you say, the grassroots thing, and it's, again, with the machine learning side of it, it's taken a while for people to accept that level of collaboration that it needs. But as soon as you do, it just opens a lot up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of those things that if you can get people to open up once to cooperate, then they'll start to see the benefit and the cycle feeds itself. The way we started it is we got executives from EMS companies, right. So CEO level, supply chain VP level. We had 50 of them on a Zoom meeting. And we said, hey, you guys get together. If you can agree this is a good idea, then we will go build the software, no problem. We don't charge for it or anything. It's just a service to the industry, which I guess we're the beneficiaries because of the goodwill it generates. But it's been, that's kind of how we started, is we said we need the leadership of the industry to agree this is a good direction to go.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
And, you also notice that there's a, with the whole way the industry's gone, we used to be talking about supply chain problems it was always, they'll be over in a few months. People don't bother saying they're going to be over. It's kind of that, just accept that supply chain issues are going to be, variable lead times are going to be part of the landscape for the foreseeable kind of thing. Yeah. And I guess you offering ways to mitigate that is fantastic.
Absolutely. I think transparency into what the world is doing is really important, right? Because it's not that there's long lead time. I mean, that's a part of it, but it's that you didn't know that there was long lead time far enough in advance. And so the more we can improve on that, the more data that's available, the better everybody is. So we're never going to go back to a world where there's an abundance of stock on every part. No. That's just not reality. It's not financially viable. But there is going to be a world where we say, here's when we know we can get this part, and we're going to align all of our supply chain around that. Yeah. So, it's just better predictability.
Yeah. And, with the whole, we live in a changing world, and it's the geopolitical landscape is changing constantly, isn't it? So, where we talked one time about reshoring as something would be good to do, now it's just good business sense, and everyone is doing that, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, diversification in all aspects is important, I think, right? So if you think about single sourcing from a country, single sourcing from a manufacturer, single sourcing from a supplier, all of those things matter, and I think it comes through cycles. I'm I'm optimistic but cautiously because I think we've gone through cycles in the past, and not just in electronics. I think the world goes through cycles, and everybody learns their lesson for a while, and then they repeat. History repeats itself, kind of thing. And I think at some point, with the way that all the major companies in the world operate, is how was your quarterly performance? And at some point the world says, well, I care a little bit more about profits now because it's been so long since the last disaster. So, it's just hoping that we keep that memory longer each time.
And get back to the show. I mean, I guess a show like this is quite important for you then, to actually be able to talk to a lot of customers and, do a little bit of crystal ball gazing of what they'd like to see, so that you can come back next year.
Absolutely. I participated in, there's the EMS Leadership Summit that the IPC does, and so I participated in that yesterday, and it was really nice. There was a great panel I was participating in that was about the supply chain disruptions and that kind of stuff, but it was cool to see because there was 50 EMS companies participating, I think, and half of them were already our customers, and so it's a great opportunity for us to meet a bunch of our customers in one place, put a face to it, because otherwise it's all been virtual for the past few years.
Yes, true, yeah. And, I think people do realise that sharing knowledge doesn't compromise what you're doing. It can actually improve what everyone can.
Yeah, I mean, on an aggregate level, people are competing with each other, but on a micro level, you're not necessarily competing with the guy sitting next to you, right? It's the customer is going to source it from multiple places anyway. It's to the benefit of the industry that if we all get better, then I think customers will benefit, and therefore you will benefit from that. So and we did a user conference in the fall where we got about 50 companies together, and it was amazing how collaborative they got. They were sharing all kinds of process information, who their preferred vendors, like just all kinds of information. I was like, oh wow, I'm surprised you're willing to say that in a public space. But it was, like if we can all be better, we'll be competing against the person that's not in this room.
Yeah, true. So. Yeah, well said. Well, thanks for spending time to talk to us, Chintan. I hope the show is successful. I mean, there's a lot of people around actually, so it feels good. So thank you.
Thank you, Iain.